So I just wanted to start out this evening by thanking everyone for coming. I know time is very precious, means a lot to us, so it shows us how much Preston means to all of you. So great to have so many of you out here to join us. My name is Matthew Blevins. I'm a senior planner in the policy section, and I am the project lead for the Preston Secondary Plan project. So anyone you see here with the name tag this evening, will either say City of Cambridge or City Planning staff, or our friends at Dillon Consulting have Dillon on their name tags. We're all pretty easygoing people. We'll generally answer to hey you. So if you're saying somebody's name and we're not answering, just speak a little bit louder, and then we'll get to you. If you have any questions, or we facilitator at each table taking you through the exercise. We will do a quick introduction. But before we start that, I'd just like to go to our land acknowledgement. So we embrace our shared responsibility with the First Nations people to take care of this earth and its creatures. We can only do so by walking the path as partners stewarding this land, as we have been given the duty together to live in balance and harmony with all living things. We acknowledge and respect the Anishinaabe, Chinatown, and Haudenosaunee peoples who came before us, we live amongst. By honoring this truth of past and present, may we come to true reconciliation through listening, reflecting, and learning. So I'll do a quick introduction of the project team. So like I said, I'm Matthew Blevins, the Senior Planner for Reorganization, City of Cambridge. We have Maria Scarra over there, who is one of our policy planners, helping out on the project. At the registration table, we have Melissa Albanate, who's the manager of policy planning. And then throughout the room, to assist from Dylan, we have Ashley North, the project lead. We have Zara, who is just over at the registration table. We have Harani, who is just over here, thank you. And then Stephanie, who is also over here. Then joining us from planning staff as well, we have Brian Cooper over at the registration table. Sean Bender is over in the corner. And we have Santi right there, and then Anne sitting at the table, and Edmund is in the middle here. And I don't think I've missed anyone.
Ward Councillor.
We have two ward councillors here with us. Thank you. We have Councillor Sherry, and then we have Councillor Kimson, who there she is at the back as well. So there we go. I made my first mistake of the evening, and everyone has graciously let me do that. So we can move on, and everything's going to go uphill from here.
Thanks, Mass. Can everyone hear me okay? Is this helpful? Okay. So I know we're a little cramped in here, and it's maybe not the most up-to-date audio visual situation, but I welcome you to move around and make yourself comfortable, acknowledging that I'm sort of standing in front of the slides. I'll try not to do that. But at any time, to increase your comfort, feel free to move around. There's also refreshments over here to help yourself at any time as well. Washroom is over there, that's accessible, and there's also one behind through these doors here. So I'm really happy to see everyone here tonight, and thank you so much for coming out on this rainy May evening. Just want to acknowledge that we're here together, which is a gift, to have a conversation about the future of Preston, and that we're here to listen and communicate openly and honestly. And also that some of us, in particular at the facilitated roundtables, we want to hear from everyone. So we encourage you to take space if maybe that's not usually your style, and maybe practice making space for others to talk as well. So on the agenda tonight, and welcome, we still have some folks coming in, we'll find seating for them. So we have a pretty brief presentation. The purpose of tonight is to hear from you. So after I go through a bit of project introduction and talking a bit about Preston today, the focus and the intent of how we spend our time today is through a workshop and facilitated activities at the tables that you see around us here. So we want to share the information, learn about what you love about Preston, and where there may be opportunities for change related to how growth is accommodated, where there's opportunities for park space, transportation, and all these key things, as well as get feedback through those discussions on your vision for the future of Preston. So what is this project about? Oh, hello. Hello. Hi. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry. Oh shoot, I forgot to record. Are you? Okay. I'm getting started though. Sorry guys. God, I'm so excited. One of the things that we're doing that's really important to the city and for this project throughout is to have a range of opportunities for people to give input and engage. Maybe not everyone's able to come out tonight. So all the materials that you see here today is going to be available online, and we have online versions of surveys for people to engage with online if they're not available, as well as the presentation materials and a version of this voice recording that you're hearing now. So why we're here, we're doing a secondary plan for Preston, planning for long-term growth over the next 25 years. And a secondary plan is a land use planning tool that outlines a vision as well as policies and land use guidelines that direct and inform where and how growth should occur. And I'm sure many of you have seen over the years that there is market demand and change happening in the region, or sorry, in Preston. And the opportunity here is to proactively plan, use the planning tools that we have available to influence and inform where and how that change occurs. We are here at the STAR. We're all here together in phase 2 of the project. Phase 1 was just the website, it was a website launch and some background review work that we did. And right now we are here getting input on how, what's important to you for us to consider as we're planning for growth to inform a vision and identifying some of the opportunities. And out of this phase and the input that we hear today, we will be going into phase 3, which is developing a secondary plan concept that is what could Preston look like in the future. And then as an outcome of that, as part of phase 4, it'll be finalizing some of the policies that outline the details to what that change could look like. Something that I want to emphasize is community engagement is integral to any planning project that we're doing. And in particular, for this project, the city has a very robust engagement program in place. Each round has multiple avenues and ways for people to get input, including sessions like this. Earlier today, we had a drop-in. It was the exact same materials you see, but a little more casual. People are able to drop in over lunch. And we had an excellent turnout. Over 60 people showed up. And we got a lot of excellent feedback. Some of the key things that we heard that people are concerned about is just change generally and what it means for the future and your experience in the community. Impacts of growth on increased traffic, congestion, in particular down King Street and along Fountain Street and access to Preston Heights, as well as concerns about protecting the existing park area and overall what that can mean for the future of the feel of the community. Some other engagement that we are doing as part of this phase and subsequent phases is creating a community focus group. And I invite you, if you're interested, to apply through the project website. And this is a group of people who live and know Preston better than anyone else to be involved throughout the process, to inform us in terms of technical components that we're working on, to get a bit more detail on the work that we're doing, as well as to give us input and direction on how we engage with the public in subsequent phases. We are also, or the city is also working with Urban Minds to do some engagement with the grade 9 students at Preston High to get input on vision and how they could see the community changing, which is really fun and exciting to know about urban planning in grade 9 and have a say in the future of their community. There's also additional
pop-up events that the city is doing. So in engagement, it can be helpful to go where the people are. So I think the city is taking a look at opportunities to go to a farmer's market to just meet people where they are at. And there's going to be this type of engagement at all phases of the project as it progresses. So this is not the first time I will see you, hopefully. I'm sure. All right, with that, I want to give you a bit of context in terms of the land use and policy framework that we are working within. So if you're not familiar, within Ontario, the province has a provincial planning statement that gives direction to municipalities and informs how they plan for growth, including having planning for long-term growth, providing a range of housing options, and planning for intensification. Any municipal planning decision that's made is supposed to be consistent with this provincial document, and that under this provincial planning statement, the city is required to plan for a range of housing forms, like I'd mentioned. It also provides direction to municipalities on what is called a major transit station area, which I'll talk a bit more about in a moment. There's a lot going on this slide, so feel free to read it all if you'd like. But the gist of it is highlighting the Region of Waterloo official plan. So there's, with the changes in planning authority, the Region of Waterloo's official plan, which was recently updated to plan for growth to 2051, has now become the city's plan to implement because the region no longer has planning authority. And part of the most recent updates to the plan, like I said, it planned to forecast growth. So forecasting growth is how much growth can we expect to occur over a certain period of time, in this case to 2051. And then they also allocate that growth. So this is region-wide. How much of all that growth is going to be in Kitchener? How much of it is going to be in Cambridge? And what this purple graphic is showing is how much of that is going to be in Preston. So based on these allocations, it's not perfect. These are representative numbers because the way, like it doesn't perfectly match with the study area. So it's general. But the amount of growth that we were talking about over, and in this case it is 30 years because it starts at 2021, is an additional approximately 3,300 people over 30 years. That's about, I think this is basic, I think this math is right, but about 110 people a year over the 30 years, and an additional 700 jobs. So it is a change for Preston, but hopefully that gives you a bit of context in terms of the magnitude. So it will still have an impact, and the opportunity that we have through this project is to direct where and how we want the community to grow. The region official plan also identifies and has delineated a major transit station area. I'll show it on a map in a moment, but it has identified one for around Preston, around the planned rapid transit stop. We acknowledge that there is uncertainty and sensitivities around the timing of that, the location of it. That is not necessarily it is not in the control of this project. What is in the control of this project and the city is to set up a land use and policy framework to help direct some and manage some of the growth and how it manifests over time. There's also a couple other key things in the region official plan related to natural heritage, and I'll touch on that in a moment as well. In addition to the region official plan, there is a city official plan. Us planners love our complicated systems for our job security. Don't we all? So there is a vision in it that identifies the uniqueness of its founding communities, united by heritage, rivers, cultures, and a common future. It also acknowledges the objectives related to a range of housing options, the importance of the natural environment, and also encouraging businesses and growth. And in the current official plan, Preston is identified as an area to accommodate and support additional residents and jobs, because it is one of the core communities across the city. So again, more job security. When we're talking land use, there's the overarching provincial direction under the Planning Act and the provincial planning statement. There's, in some cases, a regional official plan, a municipal official plan, a secondary plan, which is typically a bit more detailed about a specific geography, and then the land use regulation tool, which is usually zoning bylaw. So just want to flag and highlight and acknowledge and encourage you, if you haven't, that the city is currently doing a comprehensive zoning bylaw that is focused on form-based zoning. So I won't get into it tonight. There's some cards with the project website if you aren't familiar with it. But this secondary plan, the policies will be implemented ultimately at some point through an update to land use regulations. All right, that was the planning context. The next few slides are just a few maps that talk a bit about Preston today. And most of these are in the map packages that are at the table, actually. Go ahead, it's okay. Open your pop, open your chip bag. It's all good. You guys are just listening so carefully. It's like so nice. I like my children. Okay, so Preston today. This is showing, and the color is a bit washed out with the beige walls, but this is showing the designated land use. So these are the land uses currently in the official plan, and generally it is aligned with what is there today. So most of it it's really washed out, but it's yellow, which is where there's lower density, low-rise residential. The pink along the north, recognizing the importance of King Street as a retail and Main Street for a vibrant area where you can live, work, and play. And then as we go further south, along Kane, it turns into more low-rise, low-density residential. I also want to acknowledge, too, that in the gray, there are areas along the rail line that are currently designated as business industrial. So these are active industrial uses that some of them leverage and make use of the rail line, and some of them are actually between two of the rail spur lines. And the other key point I wanted to highlight is Preston Springs. Actually, it is on there, acknowledged as a site that is going to be, it is a deferral area and it's under appeal at the OLT. And some of you may be familiar with that development application and some of the others that have been approved recently, which are the blue stars. There's also Preston Heights, which is a unique area, and we're talking specifically about the portion of Preston Heights just north of Fountain that is separated by topography and the river. What this map is showing is some of the natural hazards and natural features of the area. So with the wonderful recreational and natural areas that you have, there's a portion of that is identified as floodway by the Grand River Conservation Authority. So the light pink or light purple is not developable because it is important flood function. The darker purple is a flood fringe, which means that some development may be permitted, but it has to meet certain requirements, such as the height of entrances. As you can see, it's mostly along the river, and if you go in that part along, I think it's back in Nelson, down there, it feels totally different. Like it feels lower, it's just a very distinct topography. The other point in this area, hopefully you can see it, the yellow hatch, it is an environmentally sensitive landscape that was identified by the region, and they will be coming up with implementation guidelines to inform and direct how those areas are managed. All right, transportation. What this map is showing is existing active transportation facilities, which includes cycling and trails, and they are in a solid line. A dashed line is a planned improvement. So the city recently did a cycling master plan, and a number of new projects have been identified as an outcome of that, and including a couple potential new crossings. So there is nuance here in terms of the priority of the projects and that kind of thing, but this includes all of them that were identified in that study. There's also the planned ion stop and the rapid transit station route, which is shown on here, and the major transit station area that I had mentioned. So a major transit station area, like I said, this one has been delineated and approved by regional council. And within the province directs municipalities to delineate these areas from a 500 to 800 meter distance from the station, approximately. And the intent is to maximize the potential transit users and be about at like a 10-minute walking distance from the station. And so it is this area, like across the area, that it would have to meet a minimum of 160 people and jobs per hectare. Yes.
The MTSA in documents right now, as it is, says that only 30% of this area can accommodate intensification.
Okay.
So I'm assuming at some point someone looked at this and said, if we built here, 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 or it could accommodate, and because 30% is not a lot, right? That makes it very concentrated. Is there any commentary, and maybe that'll come up later tonight, on where that planned development is supposed to go? Someone did the math, right? Yeah,
I would want to take a look at the document that you're referring to before I comment on it. Yep. But if you're able to write a note about it and just the source, that'd be great. All right, this map is showing a few different things. One is community facilities, which in planning speak, we're referring to schools, museums, community centers, what else? Emergency services, libraries, we were at the idea exchange today, and all the things that are important to a lovely life for folks today and in the future. And as an outcome of this project, some of these things we may be able to influence, and others there may be a bit more tangential, like school boards do their own planning, that kind of thing. But a typical part of a secondary plan process is engaging with different agencies. But so it would still be helpful to know your thoughts on if there's gaps or deficiencies in some of these things from your view, or you think it could be an issue moving into the future. The other thing I want to recognize on this map is the green. So the natural areas and parks, they are a wonderful asset to the community. The intent is to preserve those functions. It would not be to suggest any change or development in these areas. And a recent master plan done by the city identified that there are these assets, but they tend to be on the peripheries, and that there's maybe a bit of a deficiency in terms of park space in the downtown, so more downtown like central areas around King. So we'd be curious about your thoughts on where there may be an existing need today based on your perspectives, and where you think it could be accommodated in the future. One thing that isn't on here that I also wanted to highlight is we understand there are a number of listed and designated heritage properties in Preston, and they are scattered throughout. There's a few clusters, but just curious to hear from you in terms of your thoughts on the type of look and feel and character that would be important to you as we manage and plan for growth. I also wanted to highlight, there was in 2013, which crazily was over 10 years ago now, there was a streetscape and urban design guideline study completed for Preston. So we will be referring to that and seeing if there's an opportunity to pull over some of those guidelines that were identified and formalize it in policy if desired or appropriate. Hello, come on in. All right, before I turn it to Zara to set the stage for our workshop piece, I just wanted to highlight a few of the next steps. I did mention them already specific to engagement. We have the community focus group being formed, and the first meeting is planned for mid-June, I believe June 11th we're looking at. We have the youth engagement the end of this month, and a number of pop-up sessions planned. So that is there will be an online survey open that we encourage you to interact with if you think of things after today or you just wanted to share a bit more on that. There's also going to be a story map, which is a fun map. So some of the maps that you see in the map packages, you'll be able to interact with and zoom in and out and just take a closer look and play with maps, which is always a good time. And the technical work, we are going to be doing a little a technical brief. So the input from you today is like key input, and we'll be taking a look at some of the mapping components, maybe to your point about where development could happen because of XYZ constraint. And then through that, that'll help us develop the secondary plan concept, which we will be bringing back to you as part of phase 3. Then, no. Not off the top of my head. No. Do you, Matt? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Thanks. We'll look into that.
Okay, so we're excited about the great turnout tonight. We do have some extra space in these rooms, so I'm going to ask the facilitators from the city and from our team to just go ahead and open some of those doors and help us get chairs around those tables. We have space around here, so if you're standing or you're looking for a spot, you're in the audience seating, don't worry, you will have a space at a table. We are trying to basically kind of just go into an activity now. And the idea is basically to picture this community of Preston in 2051. So when you think about 25 years out, what do we want the community to look like? What does it look like for the people who live here? What does it look like for the people who work here or have businesses here? What does it look like for the people who are visiting? And we want to think about all of the different layers that make communities function well, whether it is housing, transportation connections, parks and public spaces, the different types of densities, higher, lower, all of the things that we need to be thinking about. And we want to make sure that your priorities, your values are being reflected in the planning that is going to be done. And as Ashley was saying, we're hoping that when you come back next time, you'll see what you're telling us being reflected back at you in what is being proposed. So you will, at your tables, you have a large map of Preston. You have some materials to help you with that visualizing. There's some photos, there's some maps. You have a facilitator who will be helping you put your ideas down and walking through that exercise with you. We really want to encourage you to make sure, as Ashley said, take space and share space. Make sure that you share your ideas, but you also listen to others, build on each other's ideas, and maintain like a respectful, good energy. But we really also want to make sure we hear as much as we can from you. There is an online survey. If you have additional thoughts or feedback and you want to go online and take your own time to do it, absolutely, please do that. This kind of phase of engagement will be open for a couple of weeks, so we want you to just, take your time, share it with your neighbors, put what you think and how you feel on paper here or online, and just kind of make sure that you're participating as much as you can. And hopefully we'll see you again in the next round and be able to kind of share back a lot of that with you. So we're looking forward to this exercise. I'll be around if you have any questions, if you want to talk to city staff about anything that's very specific, like a development application or something like that. Make sure you do that with a specific staff member kind of off to the side. But at the tables, we really want to keep the level of conversation at looking out into the future. what do we want the community to look like, so that we can kind of keep the conversation focused on that as a topic. Any like quick, big questions about the activity or what we're here for tonight? Happy to take those right now. Otherwise, we're going to take your more detailed questions, comments, and so on at the tables with your facilitators.